This is the Classic Auto Mall Show. Broadcast from the studios inside the Classic Auto Mall in Morgantown, Pennsylvania. Just 1 hour west of Philadelphia at Pennsylvania Turnpike exit 298. Featuring nearly 1,000 classic, vintage, and barn-find vehicles for sale under one climate-controlled roof. Now, here's your host, Classic Auto Mall president and the man with all the toys, Stuart Howden.
And welcome to show number 229, where it's 5 below zero outside. It feels like this weather is really, I've had enough.
Well, it's nice when the sun is out.
Yeah, the 14 inches of snow we got, it hadn't melted a bit. At least our roof's not leaking because it's just frozen. So when it starts melting is when
it's insulated.
We're going to have the problem. So how many cars in inventory right now?
I forget what it was last week. I'm going to say 925.
927.
Sucker, 926.
No way.
I swear.
Really?
Well, we went down a little bit. Because
Can't win. I
cannot. You know, we've been selling like crazy.
I know.
But the consignments have just stopped. We had one consignment in like 9 days. I'm like, well, everybody just go home. You're laid off for an hour.
As soon as the snow melts in April,
it'll be chaos.
Back.
Yeah. And anarchy.
That's right.
And all the things we are. Let's get to our guest today. Joining us via Zoom, Bobby Akin. Where are you? Are you in California right now?
Yeah, I'm in Palos Verdes, California,
Nice.
a little south of LAX by about 10 miles. It's a bit of an oasis from what is normal LA sprawl. We have a nice piece of property overlooking the South Bay and a bit of gardens and some chickens. So you don't usually have that in LA.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of chicken farms in LA or pig farms.
That's right.
My wife and I were just in LA about 3 weeks ago, and the gridlock, I couldn't believe it was even worse than I remember it. And there seems like there's a traffic light every 5 or 7 feet. It's just crazy.
Yeah, you got to live strategically in LA.
Sure.
For where your work and social life is.
Sure.
I will say that, at the peak of most rush hours, it can be rough. But, there are so many places. LA gets a bad rap, deservedly so. But there are others that are where I still think Atlanta is 10 times worse than LA.
Absolutely. Because LA's a little more logically laid out, it seems like, than Atlanta. Atlanta is just chaos. And everybody in Atlanta goes 80 miles an hour if they're on a 10-mile-an-hour side street, Right. It's just lunatic.
And the Long Island Expressway is legendary. So
exactly. So, for those of you who don't know, Bobby is a marketing and programming executive, got a great company that we've been reading up all about, a race car driver yourself, and son of a legendary race car driver as well, Bob Akin, who raced the most iconic livery in the history of liveries with the Coca-Cola Porsches from the 935s to the 962s. I just can't even imagine how you could come up with a better livery than that.
Yeah, I mean, it was certainly, if not the most iconic livery of that era, both in the 935 and in the 962. I think the funniest thing or interesting thing to me is how that livery kind of came together. In that, back in the day, and by the day I mean in the beginnings of NASCAR,
right?
Bill France Sr. was building the Daytona International Speedway, and some of the folks that came together to help him do that, one of which included Chapman Root, who the Root family owned the Coca-Cola bottling franchise for most of the South, at least Florida, and I'm not sure how many. A license to print money.
Exactly.
And by the way, I'm still friends with Preston Root today. But so, they got that done. Coca-Cola, through the bottling franchise, and the Root family had deep roots at Daytona. And fast forward a bunch of years, somebody decided in the marketing department it would be a great idea to sell the naming rights to the Speedway to Pepsi. And that did not go over very well.
Can't imagine.
And so one day my dad got a call, which doesn't happen very often. My dad got a call from Mr. Root saying, "Hey, I want to sponsor your race car
Yeah, that never happens, right?
at Daytona. And my dad's like, is this a crank call? And especially back then. I mean,
Yeah.
this has gone so much further forward now. But, and really what Mr. Root wanted was that the 24-hour was about 3 weeks before the 500. It was the first race on the new Pepsi Speedway.
Mhm.
And he wanted a car in Coca-Cola red on the front row.
And he got it, right?
And that's exactly what they did. They didn't win. I think they finished third, but they led the first lap.
Right.
And it was on the cover of the Daytona Herald or whatever, and so my dad had done the deal for Daytona and threw in Sebring, and then after that, number one, he was cheap.
Right.
And so to repaint the car and relivery the car was expensive, but he also felt having a logo like Coca-Cola would attract other brands.
Sure.
And so he just kept it on the car. And then when we were in Atlanta, some guy came over and said, "Hey, who's the owner here?" And pointed to my dad, and the guy went over and said, "Hey, I'm from Coca-Cola. You can't just do this."
Right.
And but my dad said, "Well, this is how it came together." And he said, the guy that his name was Ken Hill, and he said, "Look, we actually like it.
Right.
We just have to formalize it.
Right.
And so come see us on Monday."
Oh, fun.
And they did a deal that went on for I don't know how many years, 15 years.
I think advertisers used to do that. If you'd start a new magazine, you'd put the largest advertisers in the town or county or whatever in there with a full page ad as if they paid for it. You gave it to them for free, knowing that it would attract other things. So your dad had a marketing mind, maybe without even, thinking about it, right?
No, 100%. And again, he was cheap.
Right.
That was a set of tires,
Sure. You had some interesting sponsors on the 962. I mean, Polo, Ralph Lauren. I mean, I don't remember seeing them on many other race cars.
Yeah, that was another interesting one. Somewhat similar in that, the phone rang in my dad's office, and he had a special phone number in his office that only really close friends, family, like if I was in the principal's office at school, that's the number I called, right?
That never happened, though, right? That was, of course not.
But that phone rang, and he picked it up, and there was this voice on the other end of the phone that said, "Mr. Akin, this is Ralph Lauren, and I want to sponsor your race car."
Jeez.
And my dad thought, true story. My dad thought it was John Dinkle, who was then the road and track editor,
right?
I believe, and who was a notorious prankster. And my dad said, "John, I'm not falling for this." And Ralph was like, "No, it's really Ralph Lauren. And if you want, here's the number to the main office. Call me back." And my dad hung up on him, called him back, and Polo Ralph Lauren.
Sure.
They put him through.
Wow.
And so Ralph came on board with a major campaign to launch his sunglasses line. Perfect. That he called the Racing Glass.
Right.
And he rented Daytona Speedway and brought in Bruce Weber, who was a super hot photographer at the time. Mm-hmm. They did a giant photo shoot. And back then, the inside cover spread on the New York Times Sunday magazine was like the biggest ad in the world.
Right.
And that was my dad in the 962.
That didn't help. Wow.
It was great.
Yeah. How great is that? And of course, BBS wheels were a sponsor back in the day. And they, all of us growing up, BBS wheels in the 80s were the coolest wheels ever. They were. Yeah, now I look at them and I go, I'm not sure that I like them as much as I used to. They haven't aged well with me for whatever reason. Yeah.
They're kind of the 1980s flash that may have evolved, but they were a great company. They were owned by three guys that made up. They all had the name started with B.
Right.
And they were in New Jersey. They weren't far from where I grew up in near the Tappan Zee Bridge. So we would go over there and see them all the time, and good bunch of guys.
Yeah. And then, of course, and Valentine Research with the radar detectors was a big sponsor as well.
Yeah, Mike Valentine, wonderful guy, and was credited with really inventing what's known as radar detectors and mass marketing them under Cincinnati Microwave, and his deal was really interesting. He and my dad structured the 962 deal, where Mike actually bought the car.
Right. Wow.
And my dad raced it and gave it a pedigree.
Right.
And then at some point would return it back to Mike in kind of race ready condition for his collection.
Wow.
That was a pretty good deal for both sides.
Yeah. Did your dad go to school for marketing, or he just fall into all this stuff? It's amazing the stuff that he pulled off.
Yeah, no, he had a really good sense of brand.
Yeah.
I think the way I would put it.
Sure.
And I'd like to think I learned a thing or two from, really working with brands, treating them with reverence and doing the right thing in support of your partners and brands. And so, yeah, he was probably ahead of his time. He studied business. He went to Columbia for undergrad and business and doctorate.
Right.
A smart guy for sure.
Well, and your grandfather started a company that your dad ended up taking over, right? The Hudson Wire Company, which supplied.
Actually, it was started by my great grandfather.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, just not technically. I'm Robert Akin the fourth.
Right.
Right. My kid, by the way, who's a freshman in Indiana, dealing with the same cold you are.
Right.
Is the fifth, but he goes by Briggs.
Right.
After Briggs Cunningham,
I was going to say,
who was an amazing guy that I had the pleasure of meeting years ago. But that the Wire Company started, I think, in 1904, really making its first consumer product was Christmas tree tinsel out of real silver. That's how they did it back then. They saved it from year to year.
Right. It had some value too.
The business kind of bumped along. My grandfather was a brilliant engineer, and ended up working with on the atomic bomb project, and being in the Bikini Islands during all the testing and all that, was known as kind of the trigger guy.
Wow.
And was great on the engineering side of the business. No offense, but he wasn't necessarily the business guy. So my dad at 18 was going to school at Columbia at night, working at the wire mill during the day. And the two of them ended up making things happen and work.
Yeah. How great was that though?
And then the race shop for many years was just across the street in a shed in Austin, New York, right in the shadows of Sing Sing Prison on the Hudson River.
Nice.
That was crazy great fun.
Yeah. So was the trigger guy like the Wile E. Coyote? He had that little box that pushed the thing down.
Yeah, that was definitely my grandfather. It was wild.
But it's skill sets are great to have people that have different skill sets involved in business together. And I'm sure in your company, you probably see that as well too. I mean, Mechanical Rabbit, I love the name. And that was, I guess, your dad's race team name. I don't think I ever knew that back in the day.
Yeah, so the Mechanical Rabbit thing, when I was little, my dad had started racing in the 50s, and was pretty good, and kind of had dreams of going big time, but that work thing got in the way. And the money thing got in the way.
Sure.
And so he paused his racing, and then I don't know how old I want to say I was 6 or 7. He kind of started dabbling in vintage racing.
Right.
And so for his vintage racing team, he had a Lotus 11, 59, I think, 58 or 59, right. Lotus 11. And he came up with the name Mechanical Rabbit Racing, which was really named after, the old days of dog racing. Sure. And the rabbit that would go around the inside of the track was a mechanical rabbit that was never beaten, never passed,
Right.
all those things. So that's what he started it. So when I, when I kind of left, I'd been a bunch of different places, but Motor Trend had been sold to Discovery, and I wasn't going to go with that program. So I had already set up a company to be ready to go when that eventuality happened.
Sure.
And I think I left Motor Trend on a Wednesday. Mechanical Rabbit opened on a Thursday.
Right.
And I was shooting a project for Motor Trend on Friday. So
nice to have those connections, right?
That's kind of how it all came together.
I like that, though.
And we're all still great friends.
Sure.
And I'm working on stuff with them right now.
I love your content. I was on your website yesterday looking around, dinking around on there, and just some of the content you've created is really, really impressive. And I haven't seen any of the long format stuff. I've seen the preview stuff that you did for a couple of the different things, and it was just really well done. Very creative and engaging, I guess is the way I would describe it.
Yeah, well, thank you. And it's truly a labor of love, right? I've been involved in motorsport. My mom used to say my third day on the planet was at a racetrack, much to her chagrin. And so for me to be able to carry that through into my current existence is a labor of love.
Sure.
It really happened almost not by accident, but like back in the 90s, I was racing. I was okay.
Sure.
I was pretty good depending on the car I was in. Had some success, won my class at the 24-hour at Daytona.
Right.
Before it was Rolex. Unfortunately, I didn't get the watch.
Now our buddy
they
Scott
did let me buy one though. So
our buddy Scott Pruitt's got a few of those though.
Yeah, he's got 11 of them or whatever.
Something like that. Yeah.
And so I was racing, I was doing okay. And, but you get to those moments in life where you got to turn right or turn left.
I hate those moments sometimes. Yeah.
And I got a call from a guy, and I'm paraphrasing the story because it'd go on for days, but I got a call from a guy, and he was running ESPN. He was leaving ESPN to go to work for someone else that owned a bunch of businesses in media. And he called me out of the blue one day, and we're talking, and he's like, "Hey, I got a germ of an idea with this company that my new boss has, and I think there's an idea here, but I need somebody that's a good sales guy that really knows motorsports from the inside.
Right.
And I think you're the guy." And his name was Roger Warner.
He's going to be on our show next week, by the way.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
He's the best.
He's great.
Roger's great.
Yeah.
And so, in essence, it really came down to, I was like, I don't know anything about television.
Right.
He goes, "Don't worry about that." And so we started working on what eventually became Speed Vision.
Yeah.
And I think there were 4 of us or so when we started. And one of the realities of programming a 24-hour, 365-day-a-week network is you got to have a lot of content, and to have a lot of content, you got to have a lot of money. We didn't have either.
The opposite of a lot of money, right?
And so one of the things I started working on was, there were all these magazines that were doing road test show or articles and things like that, I don't know what Car and Driver reached, but it was 5 million.
Yeah, it was crazy numbers back then.
Yeah, and we, with a network in the cable world, could reach 20 million.
Right.
Right. And do it in a video forward way to really showcase cars.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of creating content with partners that we controlled, we had creative control, was something I pitched to the board, and a lot of people thought I was crazy, like they're never going to pay you to do that.
Right.
And so I called a friend of mine who worked at Audi at the time and said, "Hey, you got this new car coming out. What if we did a 30-minute show on it and put it in prime time?" And they're like, "Yeah, that's a great idea."
Sure.
And so that was the first test drive show, which the original one was hosted by Derek Bell.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that now.
On the Audi All-Road, I believe.
Yeah, which is a cool car.
Which was a cool car, especially at the time.
Yeah.
I remember we went around Laguna Seca and then took a left and went off-road up the dirt road there.
Yeah.
And but so that was the first one. I think we ended up doing well over 100, most of them hosted by Tommy Kendall.
Yeah.
And we had a really good run with that. And then we did another series called Shut Up and Drive. And then it evolved. There was no term for branded content.
Right.
It was just, to me, and this is what I've tried to carry on. And maybe this relates back to my dad is you got to have a reverence for the brand. You've got to have, you got to be a storyteller, and you got to be able to create engaging content that isn't too salesy or over the top,
right,
but still has marketing value to your partner.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Finding that balance. And I'm not saying I did perfect all the time. I've made some mistakes, but for the most part, it's creating content that you're proud of that represents the brand well.
Sure. We talked to a consultant about podcasts and shows, and our new term is video podcasts is what we actually are. And I said, God, but there's 1 million, 2 million video podcasts out there. And he goes, yeah, but there's always room for another good one. Yeah. And I think that's the same thing that, and Speed Vision, I liked, we all miss the old days of anything that we talk about, and especially Speed Vision. I remember that you would be able to watch the 1959 running of Le Mans. Or, there was stuff like that it was interspersed with all the other stuff that you need. As you said, you needed content. And it was great to be able to see that stuff. And they slowly shifted away from all of that and into more produced type stuff, which it maybe just, obviously it's the most popular form of motorsport TV right now is the build shows, right?
Yeah, well, build shows are, the net effect is that they're cheap.
Right.
They're, depending on the talent, but they're pretty inexpensive. 2 cameras, they're not, big productions. People love them.
Yeah.
Right. Look, Fox came over, took over the network in 2002, I guess. And they had a very heavily, or a heavy influence of NASCAR, because that's what they knew, and
sure,
that's who they had contracts with about certain hours of programming. But there was a group of us within the even after the transition that was really, I don't want to say fighting, but was like trying to find a balance,
right,
for sports cars and even Formula One at the time. Nobody cared, right? Except for 3 or 4 of us at the network,
right?
And we were fighting behind the scenes to keep it going, and we did for a long time until till Fox decided to transition then Speed Channel to Fox Sports 1,
right?
And now it's interesting because I think you're starting to see Fox Sports is kind of coming back,
right, towards
they did the IndyCar deal.
Mm-hmm.
They did a MotoGP deal. Eric Shanks, who runs that, who's a great guy,
right,
is really, really a motorcycle and car guy. So you never know; it may come full circle.
Well, sure.
I also think that Racer, Racer Magazine, Racer,
yeah, they've done a great job.
Yeah, they have recently. A lot of people don't know, but they recently took over what was MAV TV.
Right. Oh, yeah. Which was, I've seen some things on there, some programming on there.
Yeah. And that evolution of MAV TV to Racer Network is really the closest thing to what the original Speed vision was.
Sure.
And I do some work over there and partnered with with them. Paul Fanner, who founded it, is a dear friend, and ironically, CJ Oliveros, who's now the president and CEO, he and I worked at Fox together 20 years ago.
Right.
So there's synergies there, and that network is really, if you're really into British touring car, German touring car,
Yeah.
all those kind of Australian Aussie V8s and historic racing, all that stuff is again very Speed Vision-esque.
Yeah, I believe
is happening now.
Because the car, it's the nerds who watch that stuff. I mean, most of the people in the United States have never heard of the Australian or any of that stuff, and I get it. I mean, Formula One is amazing what it's done, but I tell you, even more amazing, especially for television, is these auction houses that have, between Barrett and Meekum, and then on MAV TV, just Greensboro down in North Carolina, they have a program on there. The popularity of that, does that blow your mind? Would you ever, in your wildest dream, have thought that filming an auction would capture people's attention?
It's funny. I kind of grew up in the business. I like to say we grew up in it together. But Craig Jackson, one of the very first things I did when I went to work with Roger, even before Speed Vision, was we went to did two things. Went to barret-jackson to meet with Craig Jackson to say, hey, we'd like to do some TV on your auction.
Right.
And Craig was open to it, but he was a little worried that some of his bidders didn't necessarily want to be on TV. And, there was some issues we had to walk through, but we did. And I think the first thing we did was a 90-minute show, tape delayed, on Barrett. And then the other one I did was I called my dad's old vintage racing partner, Steve Earle.
Oh, yeah.
And said, hey, Steve, we'd like to do some TV on the Monterey historic races. And so we ended up doing a delayed show there. And then fast forward a few years, we were live at Barrett-Jackson with a crew of 100.
Wow.
6 days for 8 hours a day. Kind of crazy, crazy thing. But Barrett-Jackson, to kind of what your question originally was, do you think it could have been that popular? Barrett-Jackson, for many, many years, was the highest rated week on the network.
Wow.
Bar none.
Isn't that crazy?
And it was addictive. People tuned in that weren't even hardcore car guys.
Right.
It was a combination of cars and money and the circus of Barrett-Jackson. That's part of the shtick there.
Sure.
That's their, kind of it's the Wild West of car auctions.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go to, some of the other ones, Christie's, or
a little laid back, yeah.
Oh yeah, they're a little more reserved, a little more posh.
Yeah.
Highbrow, if you will. Whereas Barrett-Jackson is just mayhem.
Yeah, and to your point about their customers, not only their customers embrace being on TV. One of the only auction houses, one of the few auction houses that the guys will actually, look at me, I just bought this car. I mean, a lot of these RM and Christie's and Gooding and all those guys, they're not quite in that same thing, which is fine. There's a place for either way, I think. But it's funny how the consumer has embraced it so much that the guys want to be on TV. That's a badge of honor to those guys.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of them that do. I do think, matter of fact, I know that there's still a bunch of them that are on the phone.
Right. Exactly.
When Leno's bidding on a car,
he's not standing there.
or Bruce Meyer, or somebody that is so well known to the industry, they're just setting themselves up to pay more if the other guy knows who it is.
That's exactly right.
So
we see that all the time. Yeah.
Sure.
We were just with Bruce Meyer when we were in California and saw his collection, and what an amazing collection and an amazing guy, as sweet and humble and caring and nice and wants to make sure everybody's happy. And it's like, wow, we need more people like that.
They broke the mold when they built Bruce Meyer, and he is truly one of the kindest. I've known Bruce for a very long time, and he is just such a good human.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the best description I've ever heard.
Yeah,
That's him. There was a quote from your dad that I don't know if it was actually your dad or if it was just urban legend, but it said, "You can't make a racehorse out of a pig, but if you work hard enough, you can make a mighty fast pig."
Oh yeah, yeah. And I look. Somebody else may have said it. I don't know, but he said it. It was. I can't even remember what it was for. It might have been a road and track thing or whatever. But yeah, there was. My dad was kind of the king of the one-liners,
right.
But it was in reference to the 935,
right,
and in general the 911,
right.
Inherently, forgive me, Porsche, for what I'm about to say, but the original design of a 911 is inherently not great.
Right.
The engine hanging, especially when they put a big turbo on it, the engine hanging over the rear wheels, hence the name Widowmaker.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
Was not ideal. And when you did that with a 935, you were constantly trying to evolve the car around an inherently bad design.
Sure.
Right. Or design not meant for going 200 miles an hour.
Well, it wasn't a purpose-built race car.
Right. And so, the phrase, "you can't make a racehorse out of a pig, but you can make a mighty fast pig," was really accurate. Sure. Right. And Porsche won more races with that pig than just about any other brand on the history of the earth. So, they obviously engineered, and that's what Porsche does, right? They engineer, and just consistently evolve their cars to be better.
Yeah.
And now, now a 911. I mean, first of all, it's pretty much a mid-engine car.
Yeah.
It's a lot bigger. It's, it's truly a stunning car to drive.
Mm-hmm.
Ironically, I had 911s, not for a long time. But I recently was fortunate to get one of the Dakar off-road 911s.
Nice. Those are wild.
Which is fun. The reason I got it was because I remember in the 80s, and when my dad was racing the Rothmans.
Oh yeah.
I love that. Of the 956 and 962s. And I'd had the pleasure of getting to know Jackie Hicks when I was young.
Mm-hmm.
And when he brought, I think it was 1984, when he brought the 911 based cars to run at Dakar. And they were in that Rothmans. I just thought that was the coolest thing.
Oh, it was absolutely the coolest.
I mean, it was unbelievable. And so when Porsche announced they were doing this Dakar, I was like, I got to have one. So I was calling every favor I could figure out. And Porsche was kind enough to figure it out and get me one. And I did it in a kind of a neat way. Or I thought I ordered it without the decals on the side that say Rough Roads.
Yeah, right. I've seen those.
With the number box.
Right.
And but I got a set of those delivered separately. And I brought it up to Rennsport. I was producing the Rennsport event at Laguna Seca for Porsche. And I got Jackie Hicks to sign the number boxes.
Nice.
And he was great. He was so kind to do it. And so I have kind of a one-off, if you will, of the Dakar 911s.
Yeah. So that begs the question is, what are the ones that got away? What are the ones that you didn't get back in the day? I know you raced a Mercure XR4 Ti. So, I mean, you still got to have that, right?
No, I got nothing. First of all, when I was racing for other people. I didn't own any of the cars.
Sure.
We did actually. That's kind of not true. We did own the 944 that we raced in the Firehawk series. Right. Won a couple races, finished second in the championship, and that car was pretty special because Porsche. Bob Carlson, who was the kind of Porsche marketing guy in the U.S., great guy. He's the guy that invented the Rennsport event.
Right.
since passed away. But Bob had finagled somehow, got Germany to build 7 very special 944s.
Oh.
They were called like the Magnificent Seven. They had
Right.
some special VIN number,
Sure.
and they didn't have undercoating. They didn't have interiors. They didn't have air conditioning. They didn't have all kind. They had plastic hoods, plastic rear glass, and I would suspect, I haven't looked, but I would suspect that those are starting to get pretty darn valuable.
I would imagine so. And what fun car to drive?
Oh yeah. Yeah. By the way, that Dakar thing is so fun to drive because it feels like an old 911.
Right, which is a good thing. Which
is a great thing.
People have to understand that.
Suspension.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, my dad had some crazy cars that, the ones that got away that we should have kept.
Right.
He had 2 Gullwing Mercedes that he sold for, I think, under $10,000.
Right.
My dad wasn't a collector. He was a guy that would buy a car, intelligently, pick away at it at the race shop,
right,
drive the heck out of it. He was always saying cars are meant to be driven.
Sure.
And drive the heck out of it and then sell it for a little more than he paid for it to buy the next thing.
Love that. We all try to emulate that. We just don't do very well at it.
And so the 2 Gullwings, he had a Ferrari Tour de France, and he had a Pantera. He had all kinds of eclectic stuff. He had a 57 Testarossa.
Bruce Meyer has a 57 Testarossa, the silver one. Yeah. And that's worth, a amount of money.
Right.
It's just crazy.
I think the craziest one he had, and it's kind of timely because one just sold at auction. He had a short wheelbase California.
Right.
Very, in the pop culture world, the one that looked like Ferris Bueller.
Absolutely.
Black with the red interior. But the car my dad had was kind of special, not even kind of special. It was special. Mm-hmm. It was ordered by Wolfgang von Trips.
Wow.
Directly through Enzo.
Right.
It didn't have the side louvers, those 3 slats on the side.
Right.
It had a GTO cam, so it had a bit of a peppier engine.
Right.
Had slightly different dashboard. I can't tell you exactly which.
Right.
But so it was a very special car.
Special car, right.
And
wow.
He bought it in 1973, I think, for, I want to say it was like $35,000, which was a lot of money.
Huge money back then.
Huge money. Like mortgage the house to pay for it kind of money.
Exactly.
And he had it for about 10 years and some Ferrari, aficionado friend of his said to him one day out of the blue, "Hey, Bob, that car of yours is probably worth a lot of money." And my dad's like, "What do you think?" And he's like, "It's probably worth $300,000.
Right.
And my dad had a heart attack. He's like, "Oh my God."
Couldn't even fathom that, right?
I don't want to own it. I can't afford, this is before McKeel Haggerty and Haggerty Insurance.
Right. Can't afford to insure it. Yeah.
Insurance was insane, if you wanted to cover it. And so, at the end of the day, he said, I got to sell it. I remember, I'm in high school now.
Right.
I remember sitting with him going, "Dad, do you need the money?"
Yeah. Let me rationalize this for you.
And, he's like, "No, but, look, why don't we build a box around it? Mothball it, put it on a shelf and forget about it." And he's like, "Nope, can't do it. Cars are meant to be driven."
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. So we sold it for $362,000, which was a ton of money.
Yeah.
1,000% profit.
Mm-hmm.
About 18 months later, it sold for $1.1 million. And just the other day, one that isn't as good,
right,
or at least isn't as one-off,
right,
sold for 14.6, I think.
Would have been a nice little retirement.
Would have been a nice deal. I wouldn't be sitting there talking to you. Right?
Exactly. You're like, who? I know I'm not talking to him. I got nothing to say. How funny is that?
You can't worry about stuff like that.
No, true. People say, "Oh, you could have bought a Cobra for $7,000 and then sell it for $1.5 million." Well, if you'd have bought $7,000 worth of Apple stock, you'd have way more money than that if you held on to it to today. So and it's not always about the money. I mean, it's fun to look back and reminisce about it, but you can't lose sleep over it, obviously. And but it sure is fun to look at the numbers that they're bringing these days. I mean, it's just. So, is your daily driver the car, or what is your daily driver?
No, I can't afford that. It's going to help pay my kids' college education, but no, I'm kind of somewhat between cars right now. I drive. Believe it or not, I drive most of the time. I drive a 2016 BMW 3 Series diesel wagon.
Nice.
I know it sounds crazy,
yeah,
but I love that stupid car. It's got 95,000 miles.
Yeah, now that's just getting broken in with a diesel, right?
Yeah. And in this part of the world, as you know, with traffic and it's not And I do have the pleasure of driving a lot of nice cars.
Sure.
I do have a Mustang GTD.
Okay, I'm done.
That's coming, I think, in a couple weeks.
Wow.
I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I bet you are.
I had the pleasure of doing a lot of work with Ford. And part of that family, I drove with them. So Jim Farley and his team have been great to me over the years. And so I when that was offered along with a Ford GT, I'm gonna do those every time I can. And,
you can't say no.
No.
And Jim Farley was just awarded the Bob Akin Award at the RRDC.
It was.
How cool is that?
That award every year kind of kicks off the IMSA week at Daytona with on Wednesday night, and my dad was a big RRDC Road Racing Drivers Club, for those who don't know, which was started by Mark Donahue, right, back in the day, and my dad was a president of the RDC and longtime member, handed it over to Bobby Rahal, who still runs it today.
He can't find anybody else to take it, he said.
Yeah. And so I'm lucky enough to be a member as well. And when my dad passed away, they started an award in his name that essentially the basic tenets of the award are you need to have a passion for driving and motorsport. Sure. You need to have something other, whether you're a professional or an amateur, something other than racing in your life as far as your career and other stuff going on. And last, but in my opinion, most importantly, you're a good guy.
Yeah, hey, or gal, or a good gal. Yeah.
Judy Stropis won it, and there are others in the mix for sure.
Exactly. So
yes, good human.
Yeah, I like that.
I didn't want to use that twice in the same podcast. So.
That's okay. Nobody's listening.
And all of our recipients, I think, have been just very. Brian Redmond's on the committee. Judy Stropis. Lee Diffie and Bobby Rahal and myself, and we've had a bunch of very deserving recipients. But when I was literally at Le Mans this year working on this Mustang documentary with Ford brought 50 Mustang Dark Horse cars and did a race at Le Mans.
How cool!
Kind of before the big race, and Farley raced in it. And
he's a car guy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's nobody deeper car guy than Jim Farley. Sure. And his passion for it, his commitment to racing on a personal level. I mean, if he's not going to the White House or not dealing with a big union thing or whatever, like running giant Ford Motor Company. he's either with his family or he's at a racetrack, and
Right.
sometimes both. Right. His daughter was camping, and it's not like he goes and stays in fancy hotels, right?
Right. They camp at the track.
Camping at Le Mans with his daughter.
Nice.
Right. He's in for the experience, and racing is his happy place.
Yeah. And that's the kind of guy you want running a company like that. You want cars.
Absolutely. I mean, he is literally giving feedback to engineers.
Right. How cool. Fantastic.
And it's so great to see a car guy in the big chair.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we could do this all day. We're over, by 15 minutes, but that's okay because this has been a lot of fun. And
it's been great.
Continued success with your production company. And congratulations. I guess you won an Emmy for the Pebble Beach show.
Won an Emmy for Pebble Beach. And we did a project last year with Patrick Dempsey.
Yeah.
On his return to racing. That's up for an Emmy this year, so we'll see what happens.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. Bobby Akin, everybody. Thanks again for being on the show. And we'll be back with the Classic Auto Mall show in just a couple of minutes. We'll see you in a second.
Whether you want to buy or sell a classic, collectible, or special interest vehicle, you need to visit the Classic Auto Mall website for more information. If you're looking to buy, you can easily search our inventory of more than 1,000 vehicles on the web at classicautomall.com.
And we're back with the Classic Auto Mall show from the Classic Auto Mall studio, Morgantown, PA.
Mm-hmm.
Great guess.
Great guy.
Yeah.
I can listen to Bobby all day.
Got a lot. 911 Dakar. How cool is that? Without the graphics.
GTD.
And a GTD.
On the way.
Yeah, and a GT. I think he said a GT also.
And a GT.
And he's got a GT.
I wore my red hat today in honor of the Coca-Cola livery.
Oh, there you go.
960. Not my favorite livery, but iconic.
Well, your favorite livery because you're Al Holbrook.
That's
and his Lowenbrow.
And Stuart's favorort drink.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Hey, gosh.
Good point.
I should have left the
cap off.
The thing off.
Yeah.
What a great guess and a great stories.
Wow.
And could just talk. He's one of those guys you talk to all day long. It just as natural as they come with doing this. Of course, I'm sure he's done a gazillion of these.
Oh, I'm sure.
And he knows everybody. That's an amazing thing. Is being in this hobby is the people that you meet. And what he said about Bruce, just being a good person.
human. Good human. Yep.
It's so important, and it's important in so many walks of life, and we don't see it so often anymore. And I wish people would walk outside and take a look at the stars at night and just say, you know what, life can't be that bad to see this beautiful scenery. And I'm sorry, I'm really going down a rabbit hole.
I know, you really are.
Get a purpose. Get a purpose.
Just get a purpose.
By the way, Palos Verdes is one of my favorite places.
A great place.
Southern California. Oh,
Yeah, it's pretty ugly there.
Yeah, it's horrible. Why would you want
living
to
there is hard, difficult.
Well, and that's what you need to do if you live there, because if you don't tell everybody it's great, they'll all want to move there. Everybody will be there.
Nice.
So exactly. So how about new arrivals this week?
Okay.
Let's hear them.
How about the 1970 Plymouth Roadrunner hardtop?
Saw that.
Ivy green metallic over tan. I think did we just see that on a test drive just a minute ago?
I think there is I think
21,864 actual miles. Era correct 383 cubic inch 4-barrel. Known history from new. Numbers matching A833 4-speed manual. Nice survivor car with low miles. How cool is that?
I love B-body.
I love them B-bodies, especially in that B5 blue.
Oh, yeah.
That's a cool thing. And that's not my favorite color on other cars.
Right.
But on the B-body, it's great. So, other new arrival is the most oddball one we've had in a long time. The 1960 Ford Galaxie Starliner 2-door Club Victoria. This thing is wacky. I don't think I've really ever seen one before this one.
Right. It's our first one.
Yeah. And they're just, I mean, in general, I don't think I've seen one.
Right.
They're just an oddball car. And for some reason, they either didn't make a lot of them, or they didn't survive, or nobody cared, and they all ended up in a junkyard.
Yeah.
You just don't see it very often. Monte Carlo red and Corinthian white over red. Expertly restored, uncommon Ford. I'll say that. 352 cubic inch 2-barrel V8 Cruise-O-Matic, and it's got the Jet Age interior.
It does. I see this one cruising through Palm Springs.
I do
It's
too.
like one of those mid-century car.
It's got that cool feel and look to it.
Totally.
And now for something completely different, the 1924 Pierce Arrow Custom Speedster, blue-gray over blue-gray, custom body, Pierce Arrow chassis. It's got a 400 in it, so I don't think that would have been original from 1924 with the Pierce Arrow.
Not 100
They didn't have
years
a
old.
400 cubic inch 4-barrel back in the day.
Not 100 years ago. No,
with a T5 5-speed manual and Willwood brakes and a Winner's quick change rear. Probably not something in the catalog that you would have ordered a Pierce Arrow and gotten.
That's a custom car.
Yeah, very custom car.
With the bow tail.
With the bow tail, yeah. So other new arrivals, the 1975 Dodge Charger Daytona. This is really an oddball car, too. You just don't see the 75s. And, of course, it was a little in the malaise era. But this one is really interesting. These cars are actually coming into favor. Cars from the mid to late 70s that were over, even the Corvettes from that era are really starting to gain a little traction and starting to bring a little bit more money. And that age group is coming into the time when they can afford to buy these cars. But it's interesting that's happening. And stuff like this. This one's vintage red metallic and dark red metallic over red. Only 238 of these built.
Right.
Numbers matching 360 cubic inch V8. Probably wasn't a lot of horsepower.
Probably not. Good guess.
And buckets and floor shift, and it's nicely appointed, and it's very well preserved.
It's super rare.
Yeah, it's just rare. So, and another Dodge is the 2023 Dodge Challenger RT Scat Pack Shakedown Special Edition. Okay.
Yeah, they put a lot of names on.
Destroyer gray over black. Destroyer is the
I love that.
name.
Usually you'd say battleship.
Yeah.
And when I first time I saw that
Destroyer.
color, as like Destroyer.
I like
cool.
Destroyer.
It's good.
Gray.
Good name.
It's a great name. One of 500 of these built, 2,539 actual miles.
Put away.
Put it away. 485 horsepower, 392 cubic inch Hemi. Showroom fresh, and it's got factory warranty till July.
Very cool. It's got interesting graphics on the hood, kind of offset. It's very, very unique.
How could you put it away? How
know.
would you not want to drive that
Well,
car?
just like Bobby Akin was saying about the Ferrari of his dad's, where he said, let's build a crate around it. And he said, no, cars are meant to be driven.
Hope for the best. Yeah.
And hope for the best. And of course, the best could have been quite a interesting. I love what he said. I wouldn't even be talking to you right now.
Still, $360,000 must have seemed like.
Well,
and there's no regrets there.
Probably the best house in the neighborhood was 175 in the town, at the time, right? So, and last but not least, the 1968 Pontiac Firebird hardtop, Mystic Teal Metallic, numbers matching 350 cubic inch HOV8, Muncie M20 manual, PHS document shows what the car was born with and options and all that. 2 build sheets, which is kind of cool, and 4-wheel power disc brakes, which is probably a rare option for the 68 Pontiac Firebird back then.
Right, they don't last long here, so
no,
they're interested in it.
They really don't. And one last thing that we forgot to do. Where did we sell cars?
Oh, where did we?
Gosh, it was quite a busy week. With this, we were joking, saying earlier in the show that when we get snowstorms, the consignments just dry up.
Yeah.
I mean, people just don't want to bring them out. But the sales keep happening. So we're not, hey, listen, we'll take either or, But in the last 7 days, we've sold 27 cars.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's crazy. And where did you say we sell cars?
Where?
Oh, where? How about Bloomfield Hill, Michigan, Greencastle, Pennsylvania, Santa Rosa Beach, Florida, Federalsburg, Maryland, Sioux City, Iowa, Davenport, New York, Martinsburg, West Virginia, Flagstaff, Arizona, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Longwood, Florida, Wichita, Kansas, Glen Rock, Pennsylvania, Seaside, Oregon, Agde, France. That's about the third one we sold in France.
Wow.
Pottstown, Pennsylvania, Columbus, Georgia, St. Louis, Missouri, San Mateo, Florida, Grants Pass, Oregon, Columbus, New Jersey, Watchung, New Jersey. I know. Kalispell, Montana, Springfield, Pennsylvania, Summerfield, North Carolina, Downingtown, Pennsylvania, Boyertown, Pennsylvania, Harrington, Delaware.
Wow.
Gave me a little bit of a head rush. Right?
You dizzy?
A little dizzy from
Cover.
So we've watched all the auctions we can watch with Mecum and Barrett-Jackson over the past couple of 3 weeks, and it was crazy. I mean, Mecum did $411 million in 10 days, and Barrett did $194 or $6 million in 7 days.
I like the way Bobby described it as a circus.
It is a circus
because it is. There's a lot going on,
and that's a compliment. It's
right.
And a lot of car snobs will say, "Oh, Barrett-Jackson or Mecum, they're the middle grade level." No, they're not. They're killing it. And their Mecum Ferrari collections that they sold brought huge money. Barrett's doing 2,000 cars that they're selling.
Right.
Mecum 4,000 cars. I mean,
it's kind of made for television.
Yeah, and it is made for television, and they've got great guys who are. Barrett's guy with Mike Joy, who we've had on the show, and Tyler Hoovey, and Steve Magnante was back.
Yep.
And they did a nice tribute to him.
They really
Everybody
did.
had the glasses on.
I know, that was great.
It was really cool. But yeah, they're not bit players anymore, and maybe they never were.
Right.
But these guys are I mean, and it's two different animals. Listen, what RM and like we said earlier, and Gooding and Christie's and Bonhams and all these kind of more catalog type auctions, you call them, are a little bit different animal, but that's okay because there's.
I enjoy watching those too.
I do too.
To you, sir.
To you, sir.
Yeah.
Now, one more, please.
Yeah.
May I ask for one more?
It's really different. It's a whole different animal.
I'm going to hammer this away.
Right.
You don't want to miss it, do you? I know you like this car.
That's chill.
But it's funny what he had said about what Bobby Akin had said about people. They weren't sure if people would want to be on television buying cars. Mm-hmm. And at Barrett, they are just on the phone and calling everybody they know and waving and so they do want to be on television.
But I have a question for you. Now, I had a car dealership for a while,
right.
used cars, and I went to the auctions, and everything's going, and you usually set a number in your mind, and that's
right.
what you want. And they keep coming over to the people, the ring guys, and they're saying, you don't want it to get away. I would punch one of those guys. How would you handle that?
Well, you do have to set a number. If you go to an auction, you need to set a number and you need to stick to it. And not many people follow that. That's an easy thing to preach and a hard thing to practice because you get caught up in the moment and you want that car, and that's a car, especially if you're buying it from a personal standpoint. It's one thing if you're buying it for us buying it for Classic Auto Mall or something, but when you're buying it personally because you want that car, and that guy over there is not going to take it from me. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden that number's gone out. Well, I hit it one more time, and the auctioneer will say something like, "Well, it's only $500 more." Yeah, but it's $50,500 that you're bidding.
It's the sixth time you've.
Come on, Stuart, don't let it get away.
Don't let it get away. Yeah.
And after a few whiskey sours, the number just changes altogether.
It's like, did I have a number on that? But it is important to be disciplined in anything that you do, and especially buying cars. You go watch the guys at a dealer auction; those guys are very disciplined. Mm-hmm. They very rarely overpay, and if they do, it's only by a very small margin. I mean, we saw cars that people were overpaying at Mika Man at Barrett hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Sure.
So. And listen, you're only overpaying if a lot of guys will tell you, hey, I didn't overpay, I just bought too early.
Yeah. Well, my problem was that I would buy high and sell low.
Right.
So.
Not a good business model.
That's why I'm not doing that anymore.
So next week, as we had mentioned, Roger Werner, who ESPN executive and Speed Vision founder and all-around car guy is going to be on the show, and we're really looking forward to that as well, too. Nice. And a great show with Bobby Akin. We thanks to him and appreciate his time today, and hopefully he had as much fun as we did.
I think he did.
We'll see you next week on the Classic Auto Mall Show. We'll see you then.
The Classic Auto Mall Show with their host, Stuart Howden, executive producer, Steve Sethier, produced and engineered by yours truly, J.R. Russ, video editor, Randy Lammy. Available on ClassicAutomall.com, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Music courtesy of the Pat Travers Band. For tour dates, contact, and stuff, visit PatTravers.com. Produced by Car Smarts Media. Copyright all rights reserved.